Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine avatara varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to the study of life of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. In that, we are going through the life of Latu Maharaj or Swami Adbhutanandaji. We will continue from where we had left in the last session. Sometime in 1902, Swami Vivekananda told Latu Maharaj, Leto, what do you think? Do you know that this is just the beginning? This is just the beginning, Leto. The people of Europe and America are now starting to appreciate the greatness of our master Sri Ramakrishna. After a couple of years, they will accept his ideas. Now, they are only a handful, but later hundreds will come. Then you will understand what this Vivekananda has done. Latu Maharaj listened to Swami Vivekananda and then said quietly, Brother, Loren, have you done anything new? Haven't you walked the same path that the other great teachers have traveled, like Buddha, Shankaracharya, and so on? To which Swami Vivekananda said, You are right, my dear Plato. I have only followed in their footsteps. Then Swami Vivekananda folded his hands and saluted the ancient teachers. On 4th July 1902, Swami Vivekananda gave up his body. Latu Maharaj was then at Balaram Babu's house, but he did not go to Belur Math to see Swami Vivekananda's body. The following morning, he left Balaram Babu's house and went to Haramohan's house. No one knew what was in the mind of Latu Maharaj. However, a couple of days later, somebody said to Latu Maharaj, Maharaj, everyone went to Belur Math to see Swami Vivekananda's body except you. People made some remarks about it. With a heavy heart, Latu Maharaj replied, Let them talk whatever they want. Will their talk heal my pain in the heart? They do not know how much my brother Vivekananda Loren loved me. I will miss his great love for me. His love for me was second only to Sri Ramakrishna's. And now he is gone. Latu Maharaj could not speak anymore after that. It seems that the reason he did not choose to see Swami Vivekananda's body was that a terrible grief tore his heart, which he did not want to publicly display in front of everyone when he went there. Balram Babu's house in Calcutta. Sometimes in 1903, Balaram Babu's family invited Latu Maharaj to live in their house in Bagh Bazar, Calcutta. They kept a room separate on the ground floor, available for monks who needed shelter and food. And from time to time, some of Sri Ramakrishna's monastic disciples would stay there. At first, Latu Maharaj refused the offer, saying that his hours of food and sleep were so irregular that he would be inconveniencing to the householders. But Balaram Babu's family insisted that having him at their house could only be a blessing, not an inconvenience, and that arrangements should be adjusted to his way of life. Latu Maharaj finally consented. He ultimately stayed at Balaram Babu's house for 9 years, from 1903 to 1912, without a break. Although he was living in a devotee's house, he continued to lead the same austere life as before. Sister Devamata, a Western disciple, recalled, "My first meeting with Latu Maharaj was in Calcutta at Balaram Babu's house. Latu Maharaj was a person of few words. He was also a person of few needs. His room bore witness to it. The room where Latu Maharaj stayed in Balaram Babu's house, it lay immediately to the right of the house entrance. The door was nearly always open. He would never close the door. What is there to hide? Everything is an open book of a monk. Nothing to hide. So the door of his room was always open. And as one passed, one could see the large empty space with a small thin mat on the floor. Just a thin mat on the floor, that was the bedding. At the far end, a low table for a bed. On one side, a few half-dead embers in an open hearth, and on them a pot of tea. I suspect that the pot of tea represented the whole of Latu Maharaj's concession to the body. So that pot of tea was the only luxury that Latu Maharaj had. So Sister Devamata is telling, I suspect that the pot of tea represented the whole of Latu Maharaj's concession to his body. How does an illumined soul live in this world? Now in Bhagavad Gita, also when Arjuna asked the question, how does the illumined soul live in the world? Siddhapragnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava siddhadihi kim prabhasheta kimasita vrajeta kim. How does he walk? How does he say? How does he sit? How does he talk? What is his behavior in the world? Because after realization of God, after he has become illumined, he will not see the world as before. What is his behavior? So the whole of that few verses by Lord Krishna is the description of how a illumined soul, Sthita Prajna, will behave in this world. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parthamanogatan atmanyev atmana tushtaha sthita prajnastadochyate. Man of steady wisdom. giving up all the desires. Prajahati yada kaman, completely removing everything, even from the core of his heart. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan, deep rooted desires, he will remove it. Atmanyev atmana tushtaha, his joy, his satisfaction is only in his soul, that is Atman or God, the Parabrahman who is in his own heart. So that person is called a Sita Prajna. Like that, it goes on giving the description. Dukkesh vanudvignamanaha sukeshu vigataspruhaha vitaraga vaikrodaha sitadir muniruchyate. So here, the description of a realized soul or a illumined soul is also given by Bhagavan Shankaracharya in his famous treatise Viveka-Chudamani, the crust jewel of discrimination. How does an illumined soul live in this world? So now Lord Krishna is also described about the illumined soul or the man of steady wisdom, and Shankaracharya is also described here. You could see that in the life of Ramachandra long back. Sitadhi, man of steady wisdom. Samatvam, equanimity of mind, will not be disturbed by any type of upheavals or depressions in the life, external or internal. When Dasharatha announced that he will be the king, Rama face didn't have any special expression of joy. Before the coronation, the day earlier, Dasharatha told, you will not be coronated, you have to go to the forest. There was not even a small twitch on his face. So he was the same Lord Rama, not at all disturbed by such drastic changes in life. Not only he had to give up his coronation, not only he would not be the king now, he had to go to forest for 14 years. So that won't disturb the life or the mind of Ramachandra. So you can see those wonderful qualities. Yes, he is Ramachandra. Maryada Purushottama, the best amongst the human beings, an avatar Purusha. And Lord Krishna himself was like that. But are there any ordinary people like us who had lived such a life in this Kali Yuga, in this century, or in the last century? Yes. So all the words about such great souls by Shankaracharya in Viveka-Chudamani. So ordinary people are called as Jivan Muktas, liberated even by living. Shankaracharya uses the term Jivan Muktas. Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he uses the term Sthita Prajna. But when you come to Lord Ramachandra and Ramakrishna and Krishna himself, they were all avatar Purushas. But what about common man? How can he become a Jivan Mukta, liberated while living like us, ordinary people, and coming out of that? Yes, the nature of those people are given by Shankaracharya, and it could be watched in the life of Latu Maharaj, Adbhutananda. So how does an illumined soul live in this world? Shankaracharya says in the Viveka-Chudamani, sometimes he appears, he looks like, not in reality. Sometimes he appears to be a fool, very ordinary, dullard. He appears to be a dullard, like a small child, innocent. That's why you can see the Yogeshwara Lord Shiva is called Bholanatha. Bholanatha. Bhola means very simple, simpleton. Bholanatha. So sometimes the illumined soul appears to be a fool. See, you take the nature of the great scientists, the great professors, unkempt hair, dirty clothes, very ordinary, forgetful. They are very great professors. They are very intelligent beings, the best scientists the world might have given. But they will be looking like very ordinary fools. So you should not mistake that they are really so. So here the illumined souls will look from the exterior. They pretend to be a fool. Sometimes they will look like a very great wise man. These are all the words of Shankaracharya describing about an illumined soul. Sometimes an illumined soul seems splendid as a king. He will look splendid as a king. Sometimes the illumined soul wanders calmly and sometimes behaves like a he behaves like a motionless python. You know that snake which is found in the subcontinent of India. It's called python. Its scientific name or biological name is boa constrictor. It constricts its prey. It's called boa constrictor. And the bigger version of that boa constrictor or the python, which is found in the South American continent, which is very popular, which everybody knows. If you tell the name, everybody will come to know about it. Anaconda. So that belongs to the same family, boa constrictor, and its smaller size in Indian subcontinent is called python. So here, motionless like a python. Python will not go and attack its prey. So it will be just lying motionless like a log of wood or something. Nobody can know that python is there. The prey will go near it and get caught by that python. It will mesmerize. It can even hypnotize, something like that, the prey. Whatever, here the example is given. An illumined soul will behave like a motionless python which waits for the food to come to it. So it's called Ajagara vritti. What is this Ajagara vritti? The monks, they have three ways of finding the food. The first one is they will go to beg food, beg alms from 5 or 7 different houses. That is Madhukara vritti. So Madhukara vritti is they will go beg alms 7 or 5 houses. If they get food, well and good, they will offer it to the Lord and consume it. If they don't get food, they will go hungry, praying to the Lord, and they will go forward in their life. That is one kind of having food by the monks. That's called Madhukara vritti. Just like a bee, the honey bee goes to different flowers and collects the nectar. That's called Madhukara vritti. So sometimes the monks, they have their food materials like dal or rice and a little oil, and they will cook themselves. That's called the swapaka. They will cook their own food. While doing sadhana in the beginning, Ramakrishna used to take the provisions from the Kali Mandir stores and he used to cook on the bank of Ganga himself. Swayampaka. Then there is another way that's called Ajagara vritti. Ajagara, as I told, it is python. They will not go about in search of food. They will be lying at one place. The prey will come to it. So likewise, the monks, the illumined souls, they will not go for begging. They will completely rely upon God. They will not go for begging or cooking or in search of food. They will be just thinking of God. As Lord Krishna has promised in the Bhagavad Gita, Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Yejanaha Pariyupasate Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyaham. When my devotees or the children or the human beings are thinking of God always, They don't have time to do any of their personal work. They're constantly remembering God. They're completely dependent upon God. Ananyaha chintayanto mam. Anya means different from ourselves is Anya. Ananya means not separate from others. To identify yourself with God. Ananyaha chintayanto mam. Always constantly thinking of God. Ye janaha pari upasate, they worship me, they meditate on me. Tesham nityaviyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Not only I will provide them all the needs they want, but also I will take care of them. It's preservation. They are both their spiritual needs, worldly needs, everything I will personally take care of. Is the promise given by Lord Krishna. So some of the monks, some of the realized soul, they don't go in search of food or begging, or they will not cook for themselves, but they will completely surrender to God and just go on meditating on God, meditating and thinking of God, nothing else. So the Lord will provide them the food. The food will come in search of them. Just like the python, it will not go in search of the prey. It will be lying down simply, quietly, and the prey will come in search of it. So here Shankaracharya is telling, sometimes the illumined soul behaves like a motionless python which waits for the food to come to it. Sometimes the illumined soul is honored. Sometimes he is insulted. Whether so, see, dukkheshu anudvignamanaha. Krishna is telling, dukkheshu, in sorrow, in insults, anudvigna. Udvigna means tensed up mind. Your mind will get agitated. So, but the man of realization, illumined soul, in any sort of tension or worries, is not agitated. His mind will not be tensed up. It will be calm. An example was told by one of our Swamijis, our senior Swamijis. When I joined the order, Ramakrishna order, there was one Purushottananda Ji Maharaj in Bangalore, was a very good singer. He told, as a brahmacharin, he was serving the disciple of Swami Brahmananda Ji Maharaj, who has written the book Meditation and Spiritual Life, Swami Yatishwarananda. He was a realized soul, Brahmagnani. So he was like that Sthita Prajna, always calm, tranquil, anudvigna manaha. So he would be served breakfast by Purushottananda Ji, who was then a brahmachari Ramachandra. While serving hot curry, very hot curry, and some other thing while serving, it missed the balance and now Swamiji had dressed himself to go to a program outside. He was about to go. Only a few minutes are left for him to go. And now this brahmachari has poured this hot curry on his body, on the whole body, while serving by mistake. Now Swamiji is telling, not one scolding, not expression of anger. His mind, his face, not a single twitch on it. How earlier the mind, his face was the same mind, calm and quiet. He stood up, cleansed all that is there, changed the cloth, wiped off the things. He didn't tell even a single word to that brahmacharin who put that hot sambar or curry on him. Quietly, whatever was there, he took that breakfast and went to the program. No disturbance in the mind or he could see outside. Then Purushottananda Ji told me, even if he had scolded him and showed anger there, it would have finished there. But that silent, undisturbed state of mind disturbed my mind is to such a way that was the most greatest punishment. If you had scolded or if you had punished me, it would have been forgotten and gone. But this was the lesson for my life. What is that? Sita pragna, anudvigna manaha, samatvam, yoga uchyate. So whenever there is any problem, insult, his mind will not be agitated. Dukkeshu anudvigna manaha, sukheshu, when we get joys and all successes and so many things, wealth, there will be upheaval in the mind and you will be jubilant and you will be celebrating. No, no such thing. Sukheshu vigata spruha, vita raga bhayakrodaha, no attachment raga, bhaya, no fear. Vita means given up. Vita raga bhayakrodaha, sitadihi muniruchyate. Such a person is an illumined soul, a Sita Prajna. Lord Krishna tells in that Sita Prajna Lakshana in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Here Shankaracharya is telling in a different way. He behaves like a motionless python which waits for the food to come to it. Sometimes he is honored, no disturbance. If he is honored to, no disturbance, calm, quiet. If he is insulted, sometimes he is insulted, no disturbance, upheaval, or agitated state of mind, nothing, calm. Sometimes unknown. This is how the illumined soul lives, always absorbed in the highest bliss of the Atman. So this in Viveka Chudamani, verse number 542. You can go to Viveka Chudamani and search for that and find it out for yourself. So now all these great qualities are given by Shankaracharya and also by Lord Krishna and also in many other books. But has anybody lived that life like that? We want an example. We want an ideal. That figure of speech, those qualities, those adjectives. Yes, it's very good. We can understand. But our mind will be searching, has anybody lived a life like that? Is anybody there who has lived like that? Near, just at hand. So Latu Maharaj's life is full of such incidences. So you can compare the scriptures, the sayings of the scriptures of an illumined soul, what Lord Krishna is told there, that the characteristic feature of a bhakta devotee, how will he be? Sitadihi. So all that yogi, the best realized yogi, what will be his character? Everything in different parts of Bhagavad Gita it has been mentioned. So all that you can see, compare it with the life of Latu Maharaj. Latu Maharaj's life testifies to the validity of the scriptures. In most people's eyes, he was inactive, but in fact, he was extremely active. His mind was thinking of God almost all the time. So, in Bhagavad Gita, the term is Naishkarmya Siddhi. So, now, what is the highest ideal of a human being? He will be intensely active, but at the same time, he will be intensely calm. What is the other opposing thing? He will be intensely calm, at the same time, he will be intensely active. So that is the feature of a realized soul or Naishkarmya Siddhi by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita in the Karma Yoga. Intensely active, but intensely calm. Externally is intensely calm, but internally is intensely active. Externally you will be sitting in meditation and calm. Internally to control your mind, the agitating mind, and make it to think of, focus it on only God and God alone in one point is the highest activity of the mind. So externally you may be looking very calm and no activity, but internally is extremely active. So other times we may be externally very active doing all the work, but internally we will be very calm thinking of the God. So that is called a real balanced state of human personality by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, Naishkarmya Siddhi. You will not be doing any activity, but you will be intensely active karma inside, because he's controlling the mind. All the senses which are simply going out, which you cannot do at all. So how much the mind will be active inside, meditating on the Parabrahman, your own bliss. So that was Latu Maharaj. He was inactive outside, but in fact he was extremely active inside, focusing his mind and all the indriyas inwards to the Atman. His mind was thinking of God almost all the time. He would spend most of the day alone, but for a little while in the mornings and evenings, people could come to see him, and he would talk to them, with them about only spiritual matter. People from different walks of life. She was illiterate, a shepherd boy, doesn't know anything about the scriptures. But how has Sri Ramakrishna transformed him from an ordinary village shepherd, uneducated shepherd, into a man of wisdom, realization? So who were the people who were coming to see him and get advice in their life? Judges, doctors, teachers, learned monks, and householders would come to this unlettered monk for peace and wisdom. His teachings were very, very simple, fresh, inspiring, convincing, and practical. Why? Because they all came from his experience. See, his teachings were very simple, fresh. You might tell the same thing. You know what is the meaning of Purana? Some of our scriptures, meaning of Purana is Pura api nava. The older they become, yet they are new in ideas. You have heard about Ramayana many, many times, maybe 100 times you will be hearing it. But each time you hear it, it is so new and fresh, you will be enjoying it again and again. So Pura api nava. Even though it is old, yet it is new. You read Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, maybe you might have read it 100 times. Each time you get new light out of it. Pura api nava. So likewise, the teachings of Latu Maharaj were very, very simple, but always fresh, inspiring, convincing. It would convince people, people would get attracted to that teaching. And most of all, it was very, very practical. Why was it? Because why the teachings of ordinary people like us will not inspire others? And why would Latu Maharaj's words inspire everybody? Because they all came from his experience. Once a devotee asked Latu Maharaj, how can we overcome lust, kama, cupid, the intense desire, kamaha? Latu Maharaj, how can one overcome lust? Latu Maharaj replied, keep a picture of Sri Ramakrishna with you. Keep a picture of Sri Ramakrishna with you. Whenever lustful feelings arise, you should look at the picture intently. You will find that the senses will gradually be gathered in and the mind will be freed from lust. I will tell you an example. Once Ravana was asked by one of his deputies, "Sir, why don't you take, now you are trying to seduce Mother Sita and attract her towards yourself and to marry her, but she is not agreeing. Now I will give you an idea. You take the form of Lord Ramachandra, because you are Mayavi. You can take any form. Take the form of Ramachandra and go to her and she will be attracted to you." Do you know what was the reply of Ravana himself? He was full of lust. Ati kamat Ravanaha, ati manat Duryodhanaha. So intense ego was Duryodhana, the elder brother of Kauravas. And Ravana, Ati Kama, intense cupid lust. So both of them gave up their life because of that. Ati Kama and Ati Mana. Now such a person who was full of lust, in spite of having so many wives and a beautiful queen Mandodari, he wanted Mother Sita. So much of lust. But such a person, when he was advised to put on the form of Ramachandra and go and attract Mother Sita, what was the reply? He told, let alone the most beautiful body of a woman. When I think of Rama, even just if I think of Rama, the word Rama, so much of purity is there that even if I think, let alone take the form of Rama, if I become Rama, then where will be the thought of lust? Purity, Rama is purity. There cannot exist any impure thought where there is Rama. If I become Rama, then can I have any impure thought or lust? Even the most beautiful body of a woman would look like the funeral ash of the cremation ground. These are the words of Ravana. So what should be the purity of Ramachandra? So what would be the purity? The same, even more, of Ramakrishna. So all his life it was only God and God, no impure thought at all. Ramakrishna used to tell, even in dream, I had not even a small impure thought. Even in the dream, because dream is where the causal body and the subtle body takes this thing, and all the things in the subtle mind or the internal mind, the subconscious mind comes up all the desire. And in the dream, you can have anything. It is all wild. So even there, he had only pure thoughts, Ramakrishna. That was the purity of Sri Ramakrishna. So Latu Maharaj is telling, if you are troubled by lustful thoughts, keep a picture of Sri Ramakrishna, whose purity himself with you. Whenever lustful feelings arise, you should look at that picture intently. You will find that the senses will gradually be gathered in and the mind will be freed from lust. What a wonderful advice. A sinner becomes sinless by associating with holy men. What a statement. Our scriptures tell, a sinner becomes sinless by associating with holy men. That's why we should aspire for Satsanga. Satsangatve nissangatvam, nissangatve nirmohatvam, nirmohatve nischalatattva. So then Jivan Mukti, Shankaracharya tells in the Mohamudgara, Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam, in that Satsangatve nissangatvam. By the company of holy, what is the use? You get detachment, your raga, your attachment will go away. You will get the right perspective of life. So a sinner becomes a sinless person by associating with the holy. How? Once a devotee had done something wrong and he was feeling very bad and guilty about it. When Latu Maharaj heard about it, he called for the devotee to come and see him. He told the devotee, look here, my son, just because you have made one or two mistakes or sinful activity, you should not give up your spiritual practices, and you should never brood, worry over that again. Should never brood over your lapses and feel hopeless. Never brood over your lapses. Try again for the good behavior, good nature. So that was the advice of Latu Maharaj to that person who had committed that sinful activity, was feeling very guilty. He told the devotee, look here, my son, just because you have made one or two mistakes, you should not give up your spiritual practices and brood over your lapses and feel hopeless. To err is human. To err is human. Call on God. To forgive is divine. God will always forget you, whatever mistakes you might have committed. As Ramakrishna tells, what is the difference between man and God? You do 100 good things and might have committed a small, very small mistake. The nature of human being is you'll take up this small mistake, make it a big issue, and forget all the good things you have done, and he will blame you for that. Then what is the difference between God? You might have committed hundreds of mistakes, but you might have done very small good thing. The Lord will catch hold of that good thing and lift you up. This is told by Ramakrishna himself about the difference between God and man. So somewhere I heard about that in English. Man gets all the good things from everybody. Man gets and forgets. God gives and forgives. God will give so much. He will forgive. He will forget that whatever he has given. He will forgive you. Whatever mistake you have done, man gets and forgets. God gives and forgives. So that is the sum, the essence of what Ramakrishna has told. So now, Latu Maharaj is telling, look here, my son, just because you have committed one or two mistakes, you should not give up your spiritual practices. Go on doing that. That will remove everything, and do not brood over your lapses and feel hopeless. To err is human. Call on God. God will forgive. You might have committed any mistake. Call on God. Pray to God. He will forgive everything. To err is human. Call on God. He will give you strength to overcome weakness, because He is strength Himself. His knowledge Himself, infinite knowledge, infinite existence, infinite bliss. His strength Himself. So if you call on God, pray to God, think of God, He will give you strength. You should not give up your spiritual practices and brood over your lapses and feel hopeless. To err is human. Call on God. He will give you the strength to overcome weakness and destroy your delusion. Nirmohatvam. Nirmohatvam. Your delusion will be removed. If you go to the worldly people, your delusion will be confounded. Your confusion will be confounded. But you think of God, go to the holy men, your delusion will be eradicated. So think of God. He will give you strength to overcome weakness and destroy your delusion. Moha mudgara, moha, all that moha, delusion will go away, confusion will go away. The Lord, He is the compassionate one. However great your sins might be, the current of His mercy will not be kept from you. However great your sins might be, the current of His mercy will not be kept away from you. How little is your sin, and yet you are so depressed? Do you know what Brother Loren, Swami Vivekananda used to say? Don't worry. These are the words of Vivekananda which Latu Maharaj is repeating. Don't worry about a little spot of ink on the body. It is nothing. If one bathes in God's infinite ocean of mercy, the stains of 1,000 ink pots will be washed away. So these are the words of Swami Vivekananda. So I am telling you, Latu Maharaj is telling that devotee who had committed some great mistake. So I am telling you, my dear son, do not grieve. Pray unceasingly. Your bad tendencies will go away in a short time. What a wonderful word, sentence of solace. I think we have to go through that again and again. It will give all of us so much of comfort. It will give so much of solace and peace to our mind. That's what it's told in the beginning. What is the use of Satsanga? The company of holy men, the company of Latu Maharaj all these days. What is happening here in this session online class? We are having the company of Latu Maharaj, the Satsanga, reading the book, reading the life, reading the teachings of Latu Maharaj. You might have not seen him, but now you are having the Satsanga for 1.5 hours. You are constantly thinking of the nature of Latu Maharaj, the teachings of Latu Maharaj. Isn't not Satsang? That's true Satsang. You may be living with a person, a saint, but if your mind is just wandering here and there, it can't be called Satsang. But here, you're constantly, for 1.5 hours in this session, you are thinking of the life of Latu Maharaj, Ramakrishna, and the teachings of Latu Maharaj. Isn't this great Satsang? And what is the use? A sinner becomes sinless by associating with the holy. Once a devotee had done something wrong and was feeling very bad about it. When Latu Maharaj heard about this, he called for the devotee to come and see him. He told that devotee, "Look here, my son, just because you have made 1 or 2 mistakes, you should not give up your spiritual practices and brood and worry over your lapses and feel hopeless. To err is human. Call on God. He will give you the strength to overcome weakness and destroy your delusion. He is the compassionate one. However great your sins might be, do not worry. The current of the Lord's mercy will not be kept away from you. How little is your sin, and yet you are so much depressed. Do you know what Brother Vivekananda used to say?" And he quotes Vivekananda. "Don't worry about a little spot of ink on the body. It is nothing. If one bathes in the God's infinite ocean of mercy, the stains of 1,000 ink pots will be washed away." So now Latu Maharaj is telling the devotee who is feeling guilty, "So I am telling you, my son, do not grieve. Pray unceasingly. Pray unceasingly. Your bad tendencies will go away in a very, very short time." So you can go through that again and again whenever you get depressed or any bad thoughts, or you have committed something, or some other thoughts of your old memories where you might have committed some sinful things. So go through this. You'll get so much of peace and joy. Now, after these wonderful words of Latu Maharaj, yet the devotee was so ashamed of his conduct that he could not raise his head. He was still feeling guilty. Seeing this, Latu Maharaj could understand it. Seeing this, even after all these words of solace, yet the devotee was so ashamed of his conduct and he could not raise his head. Seeing this, Latu Maharaj said, before he commits a sin, a man's conscience fills him with shame, yet he brushes it aside. But divine law is such that after the sin is committed, shame overwhelms him again, and he cannot raise his head in front of others. Even these words could not shake the devotee free from his sense of guilt. Then Latu Maharaj continued, "What are you ashamed of, my son? The Lord has seen everything you have done. You cannot hide anything from the Lord. Since He knows everything, He knows all, He is omniscient. Since He knows all of it, why should you still be so in melancholy? Instead, engage yourself in harder spiritual disciplines. Instead of worrying, engage yourself in harder spiritual disciplines. Keep the company of holy men. Keep the company of holy men and come here now and then." So these words helped the devotee regain his mental strength and he began to practice spiritual disciplines more vigorously. And now he could overcome that sense of shame and guilt. So we have learned so much from this wonderful way of bringing out a person from that sense of shame and guilt when he had committed that sinful activity. Another incident, once two Western women came to see Latu Maharaj at Balram Babu's house. They were whites, two Western women from America. They came to meet Latu Maharaj in Balram Babu's house in Calcutta. They were utilitarians in America during the time Swami Vivekananda went to America. These utilitarians were that idea of utilitarianism was very popular. Why to think of God? What is the need of God? There is no need of thinking of God. Just go on doing good to people, doing good to society. That's enough. Go on doing good. Utility. Do utility to the people and the society and the country. That's all. What is the need of thinking of God? So that is the idea of utilitarianism. So they were very popular at one time in America. Now you don't even hear that. But at that time, that was very popular, that idea of utility or utilitarianism. So people, two Western women, Europeans or the whites from America, came to see Latu Maharaj at Balram Babu's house. And they discussed the humanitarian activities of Sri Ramakrishna mission. So Ramakrishna mission, from the time of the inception, even before it was founded in 1897, May 1st. So it was Ramakrishna monks and the devotees were doing philanthropic activities, serving the poor, seeing God in them. Ramakrishna himself started it. Now, these two European or Western women from America, they discussed about the humanitarian activities of Ramakrishna mission. But they were atheists. They didn't believe in God. But they believed in doing good work for the benefit of the humanity. So now Latu Maharaj doesn't know reading and writing. He knows only little broken Bengali and broken Bihari accent, some Hindi and some Bengali. Is illiterate. No, not even traces of English. Now these two Western ladies, American ladies who were atheists but believed in utility, utilitarians, now they have come to argument with Latu Maharaj. Why should you believe in God? Go on doing good, that's enough. There's no need of God. God doesn't exist. They were atheists. So now, what will Latu Maharaj understand when they speak in English? And what will they understand when Latu Maharaj would speak in broken Bengali and English? So there was an interpreter. Shankaracharya acted as an interpreter. So now the First Lady, to do good to others is life's ideal. We agree with you and with this point. But you give a higher place to God. Why is it? Than to philanthropy? Go on doing good, that's enough. What is the need of giving higher place to God? There's no need of God at all. That was the argument of the First Lady to Latu Maharaj. And we do not agree with that. God cannot be perceived. If God is there, he should be perceived. So we don't believe in the existence of God because God cannot be perceived. And there is also no proof of his existence. We don't understand why you want people to have faith in God, in this unknown entity first, and then do good to others. Just go on doing good to the society, to the people, to the poor. That's enough. Why do you believe in God? That was the argument of the First Lady. To which Latu Maharaj, an illiterate, he got the interpretation into Bengali language by Chandrasekhara Chatterjee. And now Latu Maharaj replied, those who try to serve humanity without believing in God, those who are trying to serve humanity without first believing in God cannot keep the idea of service for a long time. That zeal of serving the society will not continue. After some time, it will be lost. The zeal, the faith will be lost. Only people who believe in God first and have devotion to God, they only can continue serving humanity all through. Those who try to serve humanity without believing in God cannot keep it up for a long time. After a while, suppose you don't believe in God, you are serving the poor people, the humanity, your country, your nation, your society. After a while, there will be questions cropping up in your mind. A question crops up in your mind. What shall I gain from these activities? See, because all our mind or any small activity is done by even an ordinary animal like a dog or a cat. It gets up, so there is some reason for it. There should be some selfish end to that. The cat gets up if it sees a rat or some food material there it wants to eat, it will start working. The dog also will go smelling here and there and going and searching. It wants something. Without any profit, without any gain, not even an animal will work. What about human beings? Now, will the human beings work constantly without getting paid or without any benefit? 1 or 2 days, okay, they can do that. Will they do it continuously? So now the mind will start asking you, what shall I gain from all these social activities or philanthropic activities? And once this question arises in your mind, then one begins to lose interest in all the social and philanthropic activities. Those who want to serve others will have to make personal sacrifices. You have to give up your luxuries, you have to give up your wife and children or husband interests and then go and serve those people. So you have to make personal sacrifices. You must realize that the desire to sacrifice for the sake of others cannot come unless one believes in God. Unless you have faith in God, unless you believe in God, this personal sacrifices cannot come. You cannot sacrifice your time, your money, your precious career, your family. So you must realize, Latu Maharaj is telling that the desire to sacrifice for others, for the sake of other people, cannot come unless one believes in God. See, you have been performing karma yoga, social activities. Have you thought about it? See what great wisdom in the words of Latu Maharaj. We just go on doing mechanically the work, the social activities. Have you thought about all these things? So what great light you are getting, insight in the words of Latu Maharaj. Hearing this, now hearing the words of Latu Maharaj, both the ladies in an insulting way, they laughed. And now the second lady remarked, oh, that is not an explanation. Now Latu Maharaj, when they were not convinced and they were mocking at the teaching of or the words of Latu Maharaj, and they started laughing. Now Latu Maharaj continued, he told them, will you please tell me why you want to do philanthropic activity? Why you want to do good to others? Will you please explain it to me? Can you scientifically explain why should you do good to others? Second lady, we do philanthropic work because it does good to others. Then Latu Maharaj told, but can you tell me what I shall get from it? What is that you got from that? You have done that activity, wonderful. But what did you get from that philanthropic activity? What can I get if I do any philanthropic activity, social service? What shall I get from it? Why should I work for the benefit of the others? Can you explain it scientifically? The first lady, because we live in the society, we have obligations to our fellow human beings, and fulfilling those obligations is our religion. Our ideal is to alleviate the suffering of the needy. To which Latu Maharaj told, there is a higher ideal than what you have just said, and that is realization of God. Those who strive for it are heroes. To do good to others is, after all, only a social activity. It has nothing to do with God realization. Moreover, philanthropic works may bring good to others. But what about you? What about your life? How will it do good to you? But what about you? Can you explain to me what benefit working from others will bring to you? How will it change your life? At this point, both the ladies were puzzled, they were confused. Latu Maharaj continued, you see, there is a loophole in your argument. Can you see there is a loophole in your argument? All arguments are invariably fallacious. All arguments are invariably fallacious. Only if you admit the existence of God, does everything become meaningful. Without accepting the existence of God, all other arguments, all other theories, all other laws, they become fallacious, meaningless, insipid. But only if you admit the existence of God, does everything becomes meaningful. When we bring God into our lives, then the distinctions between men and men, men and women, women and women, people to people, then the distinctions, the dissensions lessen. So when we bring God into our lives, distinctions lessen, and we feel that all people are our own. On the physical plane, there is difference between myself and you, myself and others. But on the spiritual plane, we are the same Satchit Ananda, infinite existence, absolute, infinite consciousness, absolute, Ananda, infinite bliss, absolute. So, at the spiritual plane, we are the same Satchit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss, absolute. From that standpoint, no one can help another. Rather, when you are helping others, you are helping yourself. You are doing good to yourself. In doing good to others, you are doing good to yourself. At the spiritual plane, because everyone is that Satchit Ananda where there is no difference, nobody is helping anybody. From the standpoint of that spiritual plane, we are all the same Satchit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. And from that standpoint, no one can help another. But rather, when you help others, one is helping oneself. The key to all the philanthropic activities, social service, the key which opens the key to our philanthropy is this secret. In doing good to others, we try to forget our own selfishness, our own ego. In doing good to others, we try to forget the apparent distinctions, then the distinctions will disappear between ourselves and other people. So the welfare of others is my welfare. The welfare of others is my welfare. That is our attitude when you believe in God, when you have faith in God. The welfare of others is my welfare. That is our attitude. Who does not want his own good? So if you are doing good to others, you are gaining more. You are getting so much of good. Who does not want his own good? If you believe in God and then serve society, if you believe in God and then serve society, you can never feel any resentment. Otherwise, if you don't believe in God, if you are doing social activity, at the fag end of the life, you will get resentment. Oh, what have I done? Have I wasted my time? I could have done better things. I could have done so many good things for myself. I've lost my precious life. So if you believe in God and then do good to others, you'll be doing good to yourself. So there'll be no resentment. You can never feel any resentment if you believe in God. People may get social merit. People may get social merit through philanthropic activities, punya. But if their egos are involved in it, in those activities, they will not get any spiritual benefit. If the egos, if your selfishness, if your egos are involved in the yoga, in the karma, in the activities, in the social activities, then what happens? They will not get any spiritual merit. Even the result of a good action, even the result of a good action turns into bondage if it is done with ego without believing in God. On the other hand, unselfish action, doing as a service to God, destroys the bondage of actions and brings liberation, freedom to humanity. So those two ladies were convinced and they went satisfied. The highly educated, atheist, utilitarians, the white ladies from America were convinced to such an extent by this unlettered, realized, illumined soul that they went satisfied. It is difficult to understand the moods of an illumined soul. Although his behavior may sometimes seem strange to others, there is likely to be a deeper meaning behind what he does. Latu Maharaj would sometimes appear whimsical. Many of the times we saw he was like a child, whimsical. It's very difficult to understand the great souls. So many times Latu Maharaj would sometimes appear whimsical. His moods would change without warning. One day he got the idea of brass plating Sri Ramakrishna's wooden cot, which was still in his room at Dakshineshwar. He told a devotee about the idea and the devotees agreed to finance the project. A few days later, the devotee came to confirm the plans, but by this time Latu Maharaj has changed his mind. He said, our master Ramakrishna could not touch metal. To brass plate that cot wouldn't be right, so let us drop the matter. Although he generally scorned money, one day Latu Maharaj asked a devotee to write a letter to Swami Abhedananda in America, asking him to send some money to pay for his cataract operation. The devotee wrote accordingly. One of the Swami Abhedananda's American devotee sent Latu Maharaj some money. Another time, Latu Maharaj decided that he wanted to own a watch. Don't know whether he could know the time, look at the time, or understand the time. But suddenly, he wanted to own a watch. Latu Maharaj now wants to own a watch. He decided one day, another time, Latu Maharaj decided that he wanted to own a watch. So he sent a letter to Swami Abhedananda in America asking for one watch. Some time later, he received a package from Swami Abhedananda with the tail of a rattlesnake enclosed in it instead of the hoped for watch. Instead of sending a watch, Swami Abhedananda packed it and sent something else. And what was that? The tail of a rattlesnake enclosed in it instead of the hoped for watch. Latu Maharaj expressed his boyish annoyance in his reply. I wanted a watch, and you have sent me a tail of a rattlesnake? One of the qualities of highly evolved soul is simplicity. And simplicity is one of the most difficult qualities to imitate. For simplicity, it is spontaneous. You can't pretend simplicity. So, for it was spontaneous with Latu Maharaj. As with other holy men, even Ramakrishna, you could see that he was so simple like a child, innocent like a child. As with other holy men, one never knows what response he might make or what he might say. But it would always be straight to the point. Once, a devotee came to visit Latu Maharaj in Calcutta. After having attended the birth anniversary festival of Sri Ramakrishna at Belur Monastery, he came with several friends. Latu Maharaj asked him, the devotee, how much did you give as an offering to the Lord in the shrine? How much dakshina, how much money did you give as an offering donation to the shrine, to the temple? The devotee told him what he had given. Then Latu Maharaj asked about his friends. When he heard that they had not offered anything, he smiled. Your friends want religion by bearing post. The devotee did not understand Latu Maharaj at that time. So Latu Maharaj explained that they wanted their letters to reach their destination without putting any stamps on them. Thus the recipient must pay the postage. The devotees remarked, Maharaj, you have today coined a wonderful phrase which was not at all heard before. See, I will take you through that again. Something special. You want to pray to Lord and you want to send the prayer to the Lord, that is just like a postage, without paying the postal stamp. How will that post go? How will the news reach God? So you have to pay some dakshina, to money, to the temple, to the service of the God. We all want everything free of cost. You pray and you do everything to God. You don't want to give anything to God or anybody. Everything you want pro bono, free of cost. So what a wonderful phrase he has coined. So through that he is telling all of us, yes, if our prayers has to be reached, we have to do something to God, donate something to God. We are always selfish. We earn so much, we spend it on our own luxuries. We go to so many different places. We tour and tour, the vehicle charge, the petrol, the diesel, the money, huge amount for the resorts, and our eatables and costly dresses. We all do that. But we are so afraid to give even 1 cent to the temple or the poor people. So selfish. So at least giving to the temple, to the needy, to the poor, you get some merit by which you can get luxuries. You want luxuries, but you don't want to pay for it. You want everything free of cost. So now Latu Maharaj is asking the devotee who had gone to the Belur monastery. He had come with several friends. Latu Maharaj asked him, how much did you give as an offering to the Lord in the shrine? The devotee told him what he had given. Then Latu Maharaj asked about his friends. When he heard that they had not offered anything, he smiled. Your friends want religion by bearing post. The devotee did not understand. Latu Maharaj explained that your friends wanted their letters to reach their destination, that is to God, without putting any stamps on them. Thus, the recipient must pay the postage. The devotee remarked, Maharaj, you have coined a wonderful phrase today, isn't it? See, such great insight, unlettered, uneducated person could coin a new phrase. Your friends want religion by bearing post without paying the stamp charges. Latu Maharaj continued, so many people, 5,000 as reported by the devotee. So many people took prasad in Belur monastery. So that day, because of that festival, 5,000 people as reported by the devotee took prasad at Belur Mutt. And most of them did not pay a single cent. They did not donate anything. Is it good to take food without having offered something to the Lord? Is it good to take prasad without having offered something to the Lord? The monks are poor, they do not have money. Whatever the devotees offer, they beg money, they beg food from here and there. And whatever the devotees offer to the Lord is again spent for the devotees and the poor people. How much of it is used to feed a few monks? What are the wants of a monk? It's very less. The master used to say that one should make an offering when one visits a holy place. Whenever you go to holy place, Ramakrishna used to tell, you should compulsorily make an offering to the temple or that holy place. The master used to say that one should make an offering when one visits a holy place. You should never go empty-handed. Even our scriptures tell that. A Sanskrit poet once said that the ideal human character is as strong as a thunderbolt and as soft as a flower. The Sanskrit poet was Bhavabhuti. So in his poetry, the Sanskrit poet once said that the ideal human character is as strong as a thunderbolt and as soft as a flower. Vajradapi kathorani mruduni kusumadapi. So Vajradapi kathorani, kathora. So that personality, a balanced personality is not always soft, pell-mell, like a flattened rice soaked in water. But when he has to face the brutes, when he has to face the bad people and the troubles, then that ideal human character will become as strong as a thunderbolt. Vajradapi kathorani. When he has to deal with good people, when he has to deal with the poor people, then he will become like as soft as a flower. Mruduni kusumadapi. So Bhavabhuti, a Sanskrit poet, once said that the ideal human character is as strong as a thunderbolt and as soft as a flower. Vajradapi kathorani mruduni kusumadapi. Latu Maharaj, his outward manner was stern, serious, and sometimes even forbidding. But once a person was allowed past that gruff exterior, he would find that inwardly the Swami was sweetness and tenderness itself. In fact, When he was in a mood to talk, he would be very free and sociable. Even children liked to be with him and would play with him, climbing on his shoulders. Once, Premananda, another direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, told one of Latu Maharaj's close devotees. That devotee was very close to Latu Maharaj. So that's why Swami Premananda remarked to that devotee, "You have nothing to fear. You have nothing to fear. You have received the grace of Latu Maharaj. Such a loving monk is rarely seen. By the very touch of the air, he moves. In you will be purified and blessed." The very touch of the air he moves in, you will be purified and blessed. Ramakrishna used to tell the Ganga. So 7 kilometers, that side, and 7 kilometers this side of Ganga. Even if the air, until the distance which that air, the coolness, the air of Ganga, carrying that moisture of Ganga flows, that much of area will be purified. Those people who live in that range, they are purified, their sins will be pardoned. That is the greatness of Ganga. Likewise here, Premanandaji is telling, even the air that touches that holy man like Latu Maharaj, and if you inhale that air, you have nothing to fear. You have received the grace of Latu Maharaj. Such a loving monk is rarely seen. By the very touch of the air he moves in, you will be purified and blessed. That was the remark of Premanandaji Maharaj about Latu Maharaj. Now, Latu Maharaj was especially kind-hearted to people who were genuinely suffering. So whether they might be sinners or gentlemen, whoever it might be, poor or rich. Once a drunkard came to Latu Maharaj at midnight, and in his drunken state insisted on offering the Swami some food, so that afterwards he himself could take it as prasad. Once they are drunk and intoxicated, they will have peculiar ideas. So that is the way they behave with sadhus. But naturally, people, they offer something to sadhus, and after they take it as prasad. Now this drunken man, completely drunk, once a drunken man came to Latu Maharaj at midnight, should note that, and in his drunken state insisted on offering the Swami some food, so that afterwards he himself could take it as prasad. Now, is he now pleading? No. The drunken man was rather belligerent. But Latu Maharaj quietly accepted his food, and the man went away satisfied. Latu Maharaj commented, such people want a little sympathy. That's all. Why should we not give it to them? That was the compassion, kind-heartedness of Latu Maharaj. Now, today is Sunday. I think all of you will have a lot of time. We have another 6 or 7 minutes left. We'll stop the conversation and continue tomorrow. Now, if you have any questions, if you have any doubts, you can ask. Any questions, any doubts on what we have discussed or on anything about spiritual life, you can ask. Any questions? Any doubts? Are there any questions on the YouTube live chat? No. There are no questions on the YouTube live chat. Okay. Then we can conclude today's session with the prayer. Om Priyatam Pundarikakshaha Sarvayagneshwaro Harihi तस्मिन् तुष्टे जगत्तुष्टं प्रीडिते प्रीडितं जगत् हरिः ॐ तत्सत् श्रीरामकृष्णार्पणमस्तु।